Okay, welcome everyone, and very glad that you could join us today. My name is Paula Newcomb, and I was the formerly Northeast Regional Coordinator, but I think my title has now changed to the North Regional Coordinator of the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I will be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, Tearing Down Barriers to Accessibility, the Road to Becoming a Certified Autism Center and Looking Ahead. If you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll answer them near the end of the webinar. Today's presenters are Shelby Peak, Branch Manager, and Sarah Tadsen, the Children's Librarian at the Fort Bend branch of the Indianapolis Public Library. After this webinar has been transcribed, it will be available on the Indiana State Library's archive webinars page. If you are watching an archived recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video's description in YouTube. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to the Indiana State Library's e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word, and check our continuing education website for other professional development opportunities. So let's get started. And again, I'll start with the reminder in the chat. Make sure you change it to host and panelists to everyone, so if you want everyone to see your question. So thank you so much for being with us today, Shelby and Sarah, and I will now hand the presentation over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula, and thank you to the State Library for inviting us to come and share our story of how becoming a Certified Autism Center happened and how it's been going. I've gotten lots of questions from folks across the country about what the process is like and what specifically it even really is. So I'm hoping that I can help answer some of those today. I'm going to be going over some of the logistics side of things, and Sarah is going to talk a little bit more about a lot of the fun stuff, the impact, and what cool things that we have looking ahead. So I am the branch manager of the Fort Bend branch from the Indianapolis Public Library. I am professionally a children's librarian and will probably be one forever. And I've been with IndyPL for the past 10 years. Let's see, I'll go ahead and let Sarah introduce herself as well.
So yes, I'm Sarah Tadsen. I am a children's librarian here, also at the Fort Bend branch. I'm also the volunteer coordinator for the branch. I've actually also been with IndyPL for about 10 years. And my background is not only as a children's librarian, but I also did a focus on services for patrons with disabilities, especially youth with disabilities. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, not only because of that, but because I also am autistic. So this is something that means a lot to me.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. I apologize in advance that my slides are probably going to be the wordiest slides because I do have quite a bit to cover, but I promise it gets a lot more picture and bullet point forward. I just know that these are pretty much the answers to a lot of frequently asked questions that I get from other libraries. So I'm going to start things off with a little bit of story time. How did we even find out about this? So Fort Bend is the Indianapolis Public Library's newest branch. It's not our newest building. I make this distinction because, we weren't moving an existing staff from an old building to a new one. We started from scratch. So I was a staff of one for most of construction. So it was definitely a challenge to make decisions on behalf of myself and a staff that I haven't hired. And a community that had been historically underserved in Indianapolis for quite a long time. Fort Bend is a kind of unique area in Indianapolis because not only is the branch located on former Fort Benjamin Harrison military base, but it also is in the city of Lawrence. So we are still in Marion County. We're still a part of Indianapolis. However, Lawrence is still also a independent city of its own. So it's got like a town within a town, small town feel that makes the community pretty unique. So I spent a lot of my time during construction of the branch in the community. I didn't have an office because my building was a concrete slab for a long time. So I got to be out and about a whole lot, and just to kind of meet with people in the area and figure out how the library would fit in and how we could serve. And one of the people that I met with was one of our city county counselors in the area. Her name is Allie Brown. She sat down with me and she asked me pretty directly what my plan was for making the library more accessible and what programs and resources that specifically serve people with disabilities. She was wanting to know about sensory-friendly programming and services for patrons on the autism spectrum and those with sensory needs. We had a really great discussion on that, and I kind of highlighted that some of the biggest challenges with sensory-friendly programming in libraries in general, but also particularly at IndyPL, was creating something sustainable. So, you know, someone would be really passionate about it and come up with a really cool program, and it would be offered at their location for a while, and maybe get good traction for a bit and would fizzle out in like a year or so due to, it could be staff turnover, it could have been due to the target audience aging out of the program, and not, you know, there could have been a lot of things involved. Maybe we weren't marketing to the right groups, who knows? But that has been an ongoing challenge for us, that it was really up to individual staff to decide how, you know, sensory friendly the programming was going to be, how accessible it was going to be, and having those tools. So, um, so, anyway, but I definitely talked with her of like, hey, this is an area that we could really use, you know, some support and, you know, an accountability. So she mentioned that there is this training that we could take to become a certified autism center. She also runs a nonprofit, Indie Autism Project, and she offered to fund the training for us through that. And she's been working with other organizations and entities all throughout Indianapolis to either also take the training or just take steps to be more autism friendly so that Indianapolis can become an autism certified city. So at the time that sounded very compelling, and with her being very upfront about offering to take on the expenses, I was able to bring that up to our executive leadership team. So they also thought it was a great idea. So we started doing what librarians do best, which is research the daylights out of it before making a decision, because it was like, okay, this is really cool, but we've never heard about this. So let's figure this out. So what is a certified autism center is kind of what I'm going to talk about next. This slide is the by the book definition of a certified autism center. Our credential is through the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards. Going forward, I'm going to refer to them as IBCCES. And in their words, a certified autism center is a facility or organization in which at least 80% of their staff is highly trained, fully equipped, and certified in the field of autism. So in casual speak, that means that at least 80% of my staff have taken this training. And that is pretty much it. IBCCES is an international credentialing organization. They also, not only do they like certified buildings and stuff, they also offer individual credentials for folks that are working in the field that want additional credentialing and professional development. But really quick before we get too deep, because I know I am going to eventually be talking about money because this training was not free. I want to reassure everyone that I'm, you know, like I'm here to say very good things about our experience, but I am not here to try to convince you all that we should all get certified. It's the best thing ever, because I know that that is not going to be very feasible for every library system. We are stewards of public and donor funds as public libraries. So really, I'm just here to, if this is something that your organization is really considering, giving you the library perspective so that way you have the tools you need to make an informed decision on it. But if you want to go for it, great. I'm happy to I'll do whatever I can to help support you. But if that's like, this isn't for us, that's no judgment here on our part, and we hope that that there's still something that you guys can put in your toolbox to help make your library more accessible. There's a lot of ways you can do, and a lot of things that work for your building aren't going to work for ours, and vice versa. So please ask questions and reach out to me later if you think of something. I'm more than happy to do that for you. So going into a little bit of the details here on what being a certified autism center actually looks like. It is a self-paced online training. It was pretty easy for staff to navigate. Training length and options vary based on your staff and who needs to take which one. That's kind of up to you to decide. They have a couple of different options to choose from. And then once 80% of your staff have completed the training and passed the exam, there is a test, it's not too bad. You are certified, like that's it. There have been some misconceptions that like you have to have a quiet room or that you have to offer certain specific things. You don't. There's some recommendations that they're going to give you, but implementing them, when and how long it takes to implement them is completely up to you and what makes sense for you. A lot of it is just things to be aware of like, oh, hey, maybe this room is really bright, so keep that in mind. Maybe in your sensory kits, you might want some sunglasses. They don't expect you to renovate your space, and we didn't do this just because we were new construction. It just happened to work out pretty nicely that way. So that's all it is to be certified, is to complete the training. They do, the first time you get certified, come to do initial site visit. They want to walk around your space. They want to kind of get a really good understanding of what patrons are going to experience in your space and how to access your services. And that's going to help them come up with the comprehensive report of recommendations. They'll go over, stuff that, is really great about your building that's sensory friendly, and also offer other suggestions as well, even for like your website accessibility and things like that. It's very thorough. They also provided us with sensory guides. I've got a picture of that in just a minute. And your certification is good for 2 years, and you can renew it by having your staff retake the training every 2 years. And throughout the period that you are certified, they have staff that provide ongoing resources and support. So I get newsletters, I get articles, they will let me know if we get added to new searchable databases for like travel and things like that, as like autism friendly spaces. And they also recently launched an accessibility app that is also pretty cool. I think I'll let Sarah maybe share some features of that at some point. But definitely download that app and check it out. It's because the Fort Bend branch is like the only certified library in Indiana still, I think, or one of the only certified spaces still, like locally. It's not, searching for us it's not going to get people too much. But if you're traveling across the country, there's a lot of other organizations that are certified. So this is what the sensory guide looks like. This is actually one in our children's area. We have 2 different ones. We have ones for the entrances of our building, and then we got a separate one for the children's area because the sensory experience is definitely very different depending on where in the building you are. So you've probably seen something similar to this at other places. Like if you're local to Indianapolis, like the Children's Museum has got something very similar in front of all their exhibits, and other destinations in the area are also starting to offer sensory guides. I think, Sarah, you had something you wanted to add on this one.
Yeah, so one of the things I really like when they came out for the site visit, that's when they did look at what they needed to do for this sensory guide. On the one for our front and back doors, one of the things I mentioned in sound is that the security gates have a little bit of a hum to them. I just really appreciate they listened to me because they couldn't hear that, but I could hear the hum going through the gates. And so they included that. So they're very receptive and they listen really well to what concerns you have about the space as well.
Okay. So here I'm going to talk a little bit more specifics of like what's covered in the training itself. Some of it depends a little bit on what training you're enrolled in. They have a 30-minute training, which is ideal for part-time staff pages, because they really want everyone in your building to, if you interact with the public at all, everybody to take the training, but you can take the 30-minute one if it's not, a pivotal part of your role in the library. The 8-hour training is ideal for librarians, managers, full-time staff, some circ staff as well that will have, close-up assistance with our patrons. They also had a 4-hour option. We did not take that one. I believe it's like a more streamlined management training, if I recall correctly. But those are some of the options that we were presented with. They do update the training, hence why they kind of want you to renew every 2 years. So that way you can be up to date on the latest research and cultural trends and knowledge of what's going on in the community. And so since we've now taken the training twice at this point, there are definitely some differences that we experienced, and overall felt very positive about it. They also, the training does a pretty good job at being objective. They want to just kind of educate you on like, okay, here's what research shows autism is, what it isn't, what symbols you may see associated with autism. Some symbols may be triggering or offensive to the community. Some still really like to use them. It's just letting you know, hey, these exist. This is what you could see, and this is what they mean. It takes you through, it does get a little clinical sometimes. The first time we took the training was definitely very sciencey versus the second time we took the training. The second time we took the training, we got a lot more autistic perspectives, but they do give you a pretty good glimpse into day-to-day experiences and why travel can be really challenging for an autistic individual and their families. And they also, they covered a very broad, it wasn't just autism. We learned a bit about ADHD and anxiety. There's definitely a pretty heavy focus on travel and tourism industry. A lot of certified autism centers are in that industry. However, a lot of the tools that we learned in that training, we were able to apply to the library because a lot of it is just like, here's some good common sense customer service, but also here's some scenarios that could happen and how to, maintain a safe and judgment-free environment, not just for the autistic individuals, but also for the rest of your patrons in the branch. So it just kind of equips staff with some knowledge of, what you could see. This is, I got a couple more slides and then I think I'll take a small break for questions. This is the money slide. Like I said, it's really gonna vary. You would want to talk to them directly. They do give libraries a pretty hefty discount. But the initial costs involve like your certification and then depending on the number of training seats that you purchase. So the 30-minute training is like $20 a seat, the 8 hours, $100. I think it depends on your role within the library on how you feel about these numbers, because I've had some people like jaw hit the floor like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. But then I've also had some folks be like, oh, that's not that bad for training. So I take that with a grain of salt there. Just to help you do some preliminary math, our branch has a staff of 18. We purchased a few extra trainings to account for turnover. You don't have to do that. We chose to do that so that way when I have new staff, they could at least take the 30-minute training, and then like take the full 8-hour training when we renewed. So initially, and again, mostly it's much more expensive the first time you get certified because of that on-site visit and travel expenses for IBCCES. But renewal, as you can see for us, the renewal was about half the cost of our initial certification. So here are some thoughts that I had of like, okay, why did we do this? Is this a good decision for us? I contacted some other certified libraries in the country to learn more and kind of gain a library opinion on the training. So what you guys are doing here today. So I actually talked to some folks in Peoria, Arizona. They were absolutely wonderful with my questions. I spoke with some of their frontline staff that just took the training, but also talked to their manager to kind of get the, you know, the logistical side of things of like, okay, how are you paying for this? How are you going to renew? Has this been worth your time? And got really, really good perspective from them on that. And then also looked at the community buy-in. Like not only did I have a city county councilor advocating for libraries to be a sensory friendly space, but Lawrence in particular really does have a lot of people that care about this in the community. Lawrence has an advisory council of disabilities. We do have some providers and residences for individuals with intellectual disabilities in our area. And this is something that was pretty clear that the community was invested in. And I also took a look at, okay, the library's mission, does it, you know, help with what we're trying to do? Accessibility is definitely a big area of growth for our organization. I looked at what things that IndyPL has done historically to address this, and, you know, what were the pitfalls with that and how does this address those? And for me, what I felt the training would do was create more accountability with staff. So that way it wasn't just on the shoulders of like one or two really passionate staff members, that there's a little bit more institutional buy-in because we're investing in the training. And it's something that, you know, we promoted to the public that, hey, we are committing to this, that really helps with the accountability factor, but it also equips the staff with tools to be confident in offering a lot more sensory friendly options for patrons. And the implementation of the training is realistic and at your own pace. The librarians at Peoria were very clear that like, hey, like you do not have to do everything that we do. They over in Peoria have a sensory friendly version of every single program they do, and that's fantastic. That is not something that is realistic for my staff at this time. But we still do a couple of things that make us shine for implementing the training. The other thing, some other things I considered was, you know, are we going to do this really cool thing once and then not renew it? Can we support renewing it? If this goes really well, can we continue this long term? That was one of the biggest questions that I had and had a lot of conversations with library leadership on of like, okay, you know, it's great that we have a donor to support the initial funding, but I don't know, you know, I'm not going to rely on that for the future. So is this something we could support ourselves? Is this something that we could grow to other branches in the future? And got pretty good feedback and support on that overall of like, hey, we'll figure it out. And then just, you know, continued opportunities to grow. So those were kind of just the questions that I asked myself before we kind of dove in and started taking the training. So last big thing I'm going to talk about is kind of what that looked like. We had a big kickoff meeting with our leadership and marketing teams, as well as the marketing teams with IBCCES. They worked with us to coordinate a press release. They sent us all kinds of promotional resources, things we could share with the public, things we could share with staff, our certificate, window clings, the sensory guides. They create listings for our location in their autism travel database and the accessibility app. They also gave us their suggestions, and as we set forth with this, we got a very overwhelmingly positive response from the media and the community. And once again, they keep in regular contact with us. So if we need anything, we can reach out at any time. So I'm gonna take a water break for a second here, and before I start shifting things over to Sarah's part of the presentation, were there any initial questions in the chat about this kind of the logistics of the process of getting certified?
Yes, we do have a few, and what you answered mine already. Were there costs involved? You had that totally answered. Jeanette asked, can a department be certified as an autism center, or does it have to be the entire library? For entrance, could our youth services department be a certified autism center?
That's a great question. So I do know for us, they kind of did it by building. So it's just the staff in my branch that's certified. However, I do know that for example, at SeaWorld, only their Sesame Street land is certified. So I think something like that is possible, but you would have to ask them that directly. I think that's not a question that we have broached with them yet, because yeah, we were debating like, hey, how could we certify our bookmobile somehow? Like that's a great question, but I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I think probably, but I would ask them.
Great. We have two more at this point. Does the certified apply to only the building, or can a staff member be certified themselves?
So I can't answer that. It depends on the training that you take. So the staff that take the 8-hour training, you do get an individual credential. So if you left the system, that's good for 2 years. You can take that with you, put it on your resume, and you're given a little license number and everything.
Okay, and the last one I had so far, did any of the trainees count for LEUs, our library education units?
Unfortunately, no, but I think that's more of their international training organization, and that's probably something we would have had to have coordinated with the state library
Okay.
for LEUs. So
Yeah, well, that's all we have so far. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Awesome. All right. Go ahead and keep putting questions in the chat if you think of something later. We're going to go ahead and talk about, now that the logistics is kind of out of the way, some of the stuff we were able to do as a result of the training. So I'm going to switch over to Sarah.
Okay. So we had a lot of initial reaction. We saw a lot of impact immediately. One of the biggest things was largely thanks to the press release that we did, the communications team. We started having patrons come from all over the city. Even if there was a closer library to them, they would come to us because we're the Certified Autism Center. That gave us kind of an expectation that they'd be able to find a library that's not going to judge them for stimming and fidgeting, that's going to have resources that they're looking for, that's going to be more able to answer questions. So that was a big thing. I've heard lots from individuals, especially like parents saying, oh, I wish you'd had this when my child was younger. I'm so glad that you have this available now. But I think it's really kind of helped create a culture for our branch, not just within the staff, but within like the patrons that we have coming in that have that understanding. There's a lot more openness about like accessibility needs or sensory needs. I wear noise blocking earplugs at the desk frequently because I get overwhelmed by the sound, and I've gotten compliments on them. People are like, "Oh, I love your earplugs," and like that's just a very different culture than I'm used to in a library or work environment. I also feel like as part of the certification process, we were able to make some more good partnerships in the community. So Shelby touched on the Lawrence Advisory Council on Disabilities. We've been a part of their meetings of the council. And then we also partner with them for an annual disability resource fair where we're able to bring in other community partners to share what resources they have and help people get more connected with like providers, services, and things that they don't know about existing in the community. And that's been really great because we've been able to encompass things from like early intervention in childcare up through like we've had things about aging well. So that's a real broad community impact. And then I have some pictures here. One is of our sensory kits. We do have those available. I'm going to talk about them a little bit on the next slide. But and then also that's me doing sensory friendly story time. And so programming has been a big focus for sure. So during the school year, I do a weekly sensory friendly story time. And it's actually kind of funny because I was researching, I'm like, okay, I'm so excited about this. Best practices. I'm going to figure out how to do a sensory friendly story time. Turns out I needed the sensory friendly story time. I didn't actually have to adapt much from how I was doing it. I actually had to learn more of like what regular story time looks like. But that's something that we do. And I've actually had a lot of positive feedback, not just from, oh, my kid needs this, but I actually had a parent say, thank you for doing this. I'm much more able to engage with my child in this lower sensory environment because usually kids programs are too overwhelming for me and I can't pay attention to my kid. So we've seen a lot more impact for adults than we initially expected. And I know a lot of things focus on, kids with autism, but adults with sensory needs has been a surprising and really nice impact that we've seen. I guess I'm talking about sensory kits here, my bad. So we do have sensory kits available for all of our programs and for use in the branch. You can see there we have some headphones that just block noise. We have like the slow liquid timer, a couple different styles of fidget because not all fidgets work for everybody. I can attest to that. Some of them have kind of a weird texture. And then we usually have like a little activity in there as well. It's something that you're able to check out and use in the branch, like I said, during program. I wouldn't say that like stats wise, we see a ton of use, but it's a little bit, Shelby usually says it's a bit like a first aid kit. So you're not going to see a ton of stats, but it's important to have because there are going to be those instances where you really need it. And we do get some use out of it. We've also recently added sunglasses as well, though we do have some of the best lighting in any library that I've seen. We don't have like the really buzzy lights, and we have dimmable lights in our programming room, in our comfort room, and in our study room. So that's really nice. While we can't do what like the Peoria Library is doing with having a sensory friendly version of all of our programs, which would be amazing, but we just don't have the staff for it. We have done different things like having our sensory kits available. It gives us a little bit more awareness of what individuals' needs might be in programs. And for some things, we're able to do like a sensory friendly hour. For example, we had a train show and we had the first hour be sensory friendly. So just not as loud, a little bit more controlled traffic, that kind of thing. So we make what adaptations we can with the staffing that we have to have as big of an impact as possible. The other big thing that I'm very excited about that we were able to do is we have a specific neurodiversity collection that we're able to highlight here, and we actually have it now at multiple branches. And what that is a collection of books, DVDs, fiction and nonfiction for kids, teens, and adults. So it's not just like the technical, like psychology books about autism. It also features neurodiverse characters and neurodiverse authors. So it's a really fantastic collection. It's really great to have that kind of popped out to highlight it. And it's a really great way to kind of direct people over there, like, oh, you should check out this collection. So it's a kind of an isolated area to browse as well. Yeah.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And that's part of our comfort room there.
Yes, so that's part of our comfort room. It's a really fantastic space. Like I said, dimmable lights. There's a sink in there. Comfy seating. We've had a huge impact on staff, which I also don't know that we were really anticipating as we started this process, since we were so focused on like the impact with the community. But we do have neurodiverse staff here, myself included. And like I said, we've had kind of a culture that's been built up due to this certification, this awareness that I think really impacts the way that we're able to communicate. I feel like there's a lot more focus on making sure that everyone's understanding what's going on, that everyone's on the same page, and having more clarity in communication. I have kind of a personal impact of this. I was not diagnosed with autism until after the certification process. This was definitely something that was of interest to me. It was something I cared deeply about, largely through people that I know. But I had some issues with things early on that needed to be communicated about, and having that culture of more open communication and immediately working to communicate through issues rather than just say being written up for something. I was able to realize that some of the issues I was having aligned with some of the things you might notice with autism from the training. And I was like, oh, I should probably get that checked out. So it's been an incredibly supportive environment through that communication and through knowing that my coworkers have had this training alongside me. I was able to very openly go be diagnosed, go through that process, and then be able to openly communicate about my needs in a way that I would not expect in pretty much any other work environment. It's been really fantastic to have that support, just knowing that I was going to have that support and understanding. Another big thing that we've been able to do, partially as a result of this, is really push for the library-wide accessibility committee to be formed. And there were a lot of people working on that for a long time. I just think this gave us kind of a little bit more of a shove as well, getting involved with that. And so we're able to, we're just forming, so we haven't had quite a huge impact yet, but we have big dreams. But we're gathering our team right now to look at accessibility issues for patrons and staff across the library and make a difference there. Another big impact as well is, since we've had our sensory kits here at our branch, they've started, our programming department has sent out sensory kits to all of the branches. So that's something that, even though we're the only autism certified branch, all of the branches now have more sensory friendly accessibility options through those sensory kits. And then Shelby, do you want to talk about
I will say, for me, it definitely helped me with growth as a manager. Just to, obviously you want to meet people where they are. as best as you can, but there are just some things that, you know, take more patience or more trial and error to figure out, okay, what is, you know, what is going to, some of the usual things to, you know, get expectations for work met, are going to look a little bit different for each individual, and just having that knowledge and ability to also advocate for my team as well, to other departments, really, really, I think helped strengthen my skills as a manager. Right.
Okay, and then the other thing that was very important to me, like I mentioned, I am the volunteer coordinator for our branch. So I worked with our volunteer administrator, so that's kind of the volunteer coordinator for the whole system. We actually made some changes to the volunteer job descriptions to make sure that they were more equitable, because the way that they were worded previously, as a system, we've been getting better and better about how we view and treat volunteers with disabilities, neurodiversity, things like that. We went through a rough patch in the past. I will say that, but we've been working forward. And so the training really helped me to have like the language that I needed to be able to identify where the problems were in those descriptions and how we could make that better. And we also have been able to have more community partnership with some local organizations that help adults with intellectual disabilities. Again, the certification really just got us that visibility. So we've connected with Village of Marici, which is like an assisted living for adults with intellectual disabilities. It's more independent, but it's like a complex. And so we were able to connect through like their job coaches to have a volunteer here come over from there. And then another connection that we've made is with New Hope of Indiana. And then we're part of their regular volunteer rotation. They have a series of like group homes for adults with intellectual disabilities. So it's been really great to have that visibility and be able to work with these partners and make volunteering that much more accessible.
Okay, next slide.
Yeah, I think we're back to you.
Okay. All right. So now we're just kind of going over what's next. We've had lots of ideas, and we've definitely had to take things at our own pace. We did renew our certification in May, so we are good till 2027. And we're really, since we learned so much about how much impact this had, not only for youth, but for adults as well, which, I mean, we really shouldn't have been that surprised, but we were. We're looking at starting up soon, like a neurodiverse meetup sort of thing, where, you know, if you want to be a little bit social but don't want to go to trivia at a bar, you can just come to the library, and the sensory environment's a little bit more controlled, and we'll have stuff there, but you don't, you know, if you just want to bring a book or your Switch and sit in a corner and just exist with others, that is fine, and no one's gonna judge you or do anything, you know. It's just very, very low key, low pressure, hopefully taking some of those social pressures away, but still have a chance to connect with people. And so that might be just one of the ways we're looking at expanding some adult offerings as well. We're also hoping to get some funding to acquire more assistive technology. We're looking at getting board maker software, which is, honestly, Sarah, I'll let you kind of explain that a little bit better about what that is and what we can use it for.
It's an alternative communication system using the picture exchange communication system. So it allows for those who aren't able to speak, or who are having more anxiety about that kind of thing. It's a system of pictures that you can use to build sentences and communicate needs. And then BoardMaker is just the software that lets us put together like here are common things that you might need to say in this area. So you can just point to something if you're not able to fully communicate your needs with verbally.
Mhm. Yeah, and so we're just going to continue listening to feedback from the community. The response has still been very, very positive. And Sarah has put together a social story, and the hope is to make a more digitally accessible version of it, so it's, you know, people can click through it and whatnot, but of our branch. So we actually have the file for that on our resources page, and it features her cat. um, but
That's
that
a
just is.
couple little pictures from it right there. And that's something that I usually look for when I'm going to a new place, whether I'm traveling or like, how am I going to figure out this new location? I don't know what to do. Social stories are very valuable to me. So that's something I really wanted to include for this branch.
Yeah. So we've got some resources there. That's not exhaustive. There's our autism travel listing and IBCCES's website, as well as the link to our social story. Like I said, there's probably other things we may be able to share as well, but I think it was just kind of like we don't know what you guys are looking for. So, but if you have more questions, I think we have a few minutes for more questions as well. And I will also put my contact information back up.
Okay.
So that way you've got that if you'd like to reach out later.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We had a couple of comments. Jen said that she loves that other Indianapolis locations like Gainbridge, Victory Field, and the Symphony are offering sensory spaces and kits. And she's glad it's becoming the norm and not the exception. And then I put in there that I know of at least a couple libraries in my region that North Manchester has some sensory kits that they check out. And I think they do also have some sensory areas and possibly things they can use as well at the library when people are there. And I know Huntington Library definitely does has a sensory room that people can go into as needed. That used to be a small meeting room, so they've adapted that. And I was also going to ask, does the cat live at the library? But no, that was just for your your story.
He doesn't live at the library, but I did adopt him at the library. We had
Oh.
a partnership last year with Indy Humane, so
That's cool. Well, a question we got from April, are you planning your adult programs with these same ideas in mind? And are the kits available for all ages?
Oh yeah, the kits are
So-
available for anybody.
we actually have different sizes of headphones available too. We have like the adult size and a kid size so that it's as comfortable as possible for whoever needs them.
Awesome.
And those are available during adult programs as well.
Great. So I'll leave it open to everyone. Are there any other questions you want to put out there right now? And I will get a copy of these slides out to everybody as well. And we have a resource page. Can we see the list? Oh, do you want to back up to the list? That page before?
Or this one?
That one? Oh, books on your website.
Oh, the books in the collection, the neurodiversity collection.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I can please send me an email. I can put you in touch with our selector. Our children's librarian selector helped curate that collection, and I knew we were going to get asked this. So we were like, hey, we're just gonna put you in touch with the right person. Because there's a lot of titles in there. So we'll hook you up.
And I've got your emails in there so we can do that.
Mhm.
People are saying thank you so much. Very invaluable and appreciate it tremendously. Yes, and I would want to say, man, this training, as you can see, has been life-changing, not just for your staff, but no doubt the community. So it was so helpful. It's been great to learn from your experience in becoming a certified autism center. So thank you very much for Shelby and Sarah, and thanks for everyone for being here today. So we'll just wait and see if we've got some more questions. Looks like Christine put her email in there, and if you don't grab it, I can send it to you later.
Thank you.
So I usually try to send the chat to our presenters as well. So I don't know, maybe things are winding down. I'll go ahead and put my end on here as a reminder. If you are watching an archived recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LU is in the video's description in YouTube. So at this point, we probably will go ahead and stop the recording.